course. So hello and welcome to our first virtual mental health awareness week at More Yoga. We are joined today by an NHS doctor, a broadcaster, author, the medical expert for BBC One's Life Hacks and the co-presenter of their weekly podcast, the amazing Dr Radha. Hi Dr Radha, how are you doing today?
Hello Liz, wow, what an introduction. I don't think I deserve that, but thank you. Yeah, it's so lovely to be here. So lovely to be with all of your audience, your community. It's a real pleasure. So thank you so much for asking me to be involved.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for joining us. So with the theme of Mental Health Awareness Week this year being kindness, what would you say kindness means to you, and how do you kind of practice it?
Yeah, so I always love the Dalai Lama's quote, which I think he says, kindness is my religion. And I think for me, that's very much how I view it. So it's something that I think has such huge impact. I think it can change lives, it can save lives. And so for me, kindness, I think, is really about thinking about the kind of words care come to mind, compassion. I think really it's about trying to put yourself in someone else's shoes and having that empathy, trying to understand what they might need in that moment. So for me, kindness is very much action based. And it's very much thinking about the other person and what they might need in those moment to moment sort of challenges. So that's kind of how I see it. And I guess I've always hopefully been a kind person. I can't necessarily keep it up all the time, but I've always, just like from a young age, even when I was little, if my brother or sisters had a birthday, this kind of shows my psychology, I would sit there and I'd make loads and loads of homemade birthday cards. It wasn't just one, it was like 100. So I've always tried to practice kindness, mainly because I'm a real believer in the fact that no one should feel like they're on their own. No one should feel lonely, and no one should feel like there's no help there for them. And so for me, kindness is very much about sort of mitigating and eliminating that feeling of loneliness, and someone being on their own is something really challenging.
Definitely. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. Thank you so much.
I have stopped now with the 100 birthday cards, just to let everyone know.
Taking it down. Okay.
Yeah.
So from your work, all of your amazing work, would you say there's a kind of direct correlation between kindness and mental health?
Yes, 100%. So often we tend to think of kindness as an act for someone else, but actually there's another element of that which I think we forget a lot, which is the foundation of our mental health, the foundation of our emotional well-being, and that's kindness to ourselves. We often forget about ourselves. We often have that inner critic that can be very loud, very repetitive, very harsh. And so, when we are very critical of ourselves, when we negate what we do, when we don't praise ourselves, then actually our mental health really deteriorates, our self-esteem, our confidence, and also then secondarily our ability to then be kind and give to other people. So if they need help or they need support with their mental health, we can't give it if we haven't got that emotional foundation within ourselves. So self-kindness, I think, is key to mental health.
Amazing. It's like they say, you can't pour from an empty cup. If you can't practice, you can't help others, and unless you help yourself.
Absolutely.
And so how would you kind of say to our community at More Yoga, how would you suggest people can practice more self-kindness in their kind of day-to-day, especially I suppose during this time of lockdown, and when I think a lot of people are really struggling with their mental health who may not have done before?
So I think first of all, recognise that it is a priority. Being kind to yourself is not a luxury, it's not selfish, it's something that's absolutely essential. And I think that's really important to clear up. I think sometimes when we grow up, we absorb attitudes around us, or people saying things where we think, oh, I should put myself last, I should self-sacrifice because it's selfish if I look after myself. And I think actually that's a real important thing to realise, is that actually, we can't do that. We then can't help anybody. So it's not selfish to be kind to yourself. That's the first thing to say. I think then the other thing to say, the really big thing, is around looking, observing, noticing that inner critic. So what does that voice, that inner critic, say to you? what are the kind of repetitive messages when you look in the mirror, when you brush your teeth, what kind of thoughts are you having about yourself? So the first step is noticing, and not judging that, just trying to just notice and be aware of it. So not judging yourself and saying, oh, that inner critic's got the better of me again, I must be that's another obstacle to being kind to yourself. So just notice, be aware of the kind of patterns or the kind of themes that inner critic has. Maybe it's to do with work, or maybe it's to do with your relationships, or maybe it's to do with how you look. Different themes are predominant for different people, and then try to then just observe those and let those go. There's an amazing teacher and author, Louise Hay, who unfortunately has passed away now, but I absolutely love her ethos of self-kindness and recognizing actually that our inner critic is one of the obstacles. So I'm very much in her sort of ethos of noticing that inner critic, not judging it, and actually letting that go and replacing it with kindness. I think she said once, what you've been doing so far hasn't worked, so why not try something different? Being unkind to yourself has not worked for a lot of us for many years, so why not give it another strategy a go and see what happens? And I think just practicing that for about 7 days, and just seeing what impact it has. Once you notice it's had a beneficial impact, you're more likely to continue it.
Yeah, and then you can see the impact. One thing I always really like to do when I notice myself speaking critically is work with a compassionate voice. And I always think about the voice of my grandma and what she might say to me if I was kind of negatively to myself. And I've definitely found that kindness, talking to yourself in a kinder way is a really, really powerful practice, actually, especially when we get those patterns that can be quite destructive.
Absolutely. And it's like, I always think about sort of little children. So how would you speak to a little child? We've all got an inner sort of child inside us. We've all got that place where we feel vulnerable, where we can feel hurt, where we can feel lonely, or quite isolated. So think about that, how you would speak to a little child, your version of yourself when you were 4 or 5 years old. You wouldn't speak to them harshly. When we speak to children harshly, they don't learn for the good of themselves. Nothing positive comes from that. So I think really changing up the energy and looking at yourself as that child that needs your love and your support and your reassurance and your encouragement rather than being harsh is really important.
Oh, brilliant, thank you, that's such helpful advice. And then how would you suggest that people cultivate more kindness towards others, towards each other? I think especially during this time when we can feel really disconnected, how would you kind of suggest people practice kindness towards each other at the moment?
So I think a really good tip is to remember a time when someone was kind to you and the impact that had on you and your life. Because kindness is not just act of kindness doesn't just last for a few seconds. It can have a lifelong impact. And there are definitely, I'm sure you can think of people who've been kind to you, and I definitely can to me, who've made such a huge difference in those moments of challenge or of joy as well. When someone's shown me kindness, I'll never forget it. So think about the impact that kindness has had on you when you've received it, and almost see it a little bit like a gift that you've received and you want to pass on, because actually passing it on is not just good for that other person, it's actually great for your mental health and your well-being as well. We know that actually there are lots of physical health benefits and mental health benefits to you passing that gift on. So look at kindness as a kind of like pass the parcel, that kind of game. You receive it, how does it make you feel? How lovely of you, to pass that on to someone else. So think about that. And then the second step to that is trying to put yourself in the other person's shoes. Who is that person? What do you know about them? What do you know about what they need emotionally or practically? What makes them feel safe? That's different for every single person we know. So really put yourself in their shoes and then tailor or try and work out a sort of bespoke act of kindness that really is going to help that particular unique person. Everyone, I've noticed this in my family, especially during this time, is that different people need different things, and they respond to different ways of kindness or showing kindness. So adapt your methods according to that person's. For example, my mum wants someone, you know, she loves having someone to chat to her and spend time chatting. My dad actually likes being busy, so for me at the moment, being kind is actually giving him things to do. So so just work out in your life, you know, what that particular person needs in terms of kindness.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant, really, really sensible as well, practical methods, which I think all of us really need, because I think often, especially before lockdown kind of happened, there was really this view that self-care was a kind of selfish act. You know, and we thought of it, actually, we're all so busy, we don't have time to do this, you don't have time to think about how you're taking care of each other. So I think really one thing that this time has given us is the opportunity to think a bit more about how we do communicate and look after each other, as well as how we kind of practice self-care and kindness towards ourselves too.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing it's really highlighted at the moment is because obviously there are so many difficult, tragic, awful things happening, you know, around us, people losing people they love. I think actually it has really focused in on our priorities, our values, and, you know, that old saying, you know, never let the sun go down on an argument, I think now is even more important. And so actually our ability to be kind, to resolve conflicts or resolve arguments quickly with the people that we love, I think we're really being reminded about the fact that we need to treasure and value the people in our lives. And so actually being kind, you know, speeding up that kindness and those acts of kindness and resolution are even more important right now, because, you know, love and community and treasuring the things that are important to us have really come into focus right now.
Yeah, definitely. And I know one of the kind of goals of Mental Health Awareness Week this year specifically was to really open up a discussion about how we want the future to be, how we want to, I suppose, change things after lockdown, kind of after COVID-19, and after seeing the different impacts it's had on society. So do you think kindness could have a big impact on how the world emerges out of the pandemic?
Absolutely, not just kindness to ourselves in terms of understanding ourselves, knowing who we are, learning and giving ourselves the gift of those coping strategies that work for us when we're having a difficult moment. So we build our resilience and our ability to actually care for other people by looking after ourselves, but also just the incredible layers of community and society and connection that we've been seeing, people caring about each other, asking how people are. I think all of those layers really, really build, and they build through the sort of, it's almost like building a wall or building a house, and the cement is kindness. You know, we're all being kind of joined by kindness, and I think kindness has a real power, like I say, not just to transform lives and transform ourselves as individuals, but it does save lives. We've seen that. We've seen how the kindness of key workers is saving lives. We've seen how the kindness of neighbours is saving lives in terms of checking in on people who might be isolated or feeling lonely. So it really is, you know, we often think about saving a life as being something like basic life support or something that a surgeon might do in an operating theatre. Actually, kindness can really actually save lives, particularly with mental health. So I think there are lessons that we've seen which are really valuable, and I think, you know, hopefully we will remember those, we'll take those forward, and we'll start to understand what kind of society we want and what have been the things that we've forgotten about. And kindness, love, all those basic human needs, safety, we've forgotten about. Perhaps they've become a bit of a distant memory, and this is almost like a big reminder to us to say, listen, this is what's important, this is how everyone can thrive across the planet. And I think because it's affected all of us across the planet, actually then it's really brought into focus the importance of emotional well-being and mental health. That it's not that those topics are not just for a section of society or people who've been affected by it, it's for everybody. And I really hope that some of the stigma that's been out there can really be really be looked at, and really we can dig deep into that. And kindness, someone listening to you, asking how you are you okay, is the first step in terms of our mental health. So I think kindness really has a lot of power behind it to help all of us.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And I think if anything, this time has definitely helped some people to express their feelings probably a little bit more than usual. I know I've had conversations with quite a few people who I never would have discussed kind of anxiety or stress or even depression with, who are starting to kind of open up about these sometimes stigmatized conversations, and I think feel more comfortable opening up as well.
Absolutely. And again, it's that, kindness can be really simple acts, kind of just can be, like you say, saying to someone, are you okay?
Yeah.
How are you? That has, I have got a friend who unfortunately lost her mum last year. And it's been very difficult because just before this situation started, she was starting to think about grief counselling. And then obviously this all happened. And I phoned her the other day and I said to, what's going on? How are you? Have you thought any more about this? And it really opened up a sort of another way of thinking for her, and about her getting remote sort of counselling. And so you just never know, you just never know. And I've been really grateful in my life to have people ask me, how are you, what's going on? My sister did that the other day. She's like, are you all right? I was like, no, I'm having a really bad day. And she just sent me a message saying, call me, I'm here if you ever want to talk. And I was like, oh, thank you. Had a little cry. And so I think it's contagious. When someone's kind to us, we have more kindness to pass on to other people. So
I love that. Kindness is contagious.
yeah, yeah, it is.
Oh, that is really, really true. True.
I know.
So helpful. So, I mean, what would you say, just as kind of a last takeaway point for anybody watching this, how to just cultivate a little bit more kindness in their day to day?
So I think, remember that being kind to yourself is not selfish, is absolutely necessary. And I think also, just look and see, just perform one act of kindness today and look and see what the kind of exponential benefits of that are, how many layers of people are affected by that in a beneficial way. And when you see something increasing in that kind of exponential way, from just one tiny little act, you'll want more of it, and you'll see actually also the effect it has on the people around you and what you also then get back as well. So give it a try and see what you think. Yeah,
find it like a domino effect.
exactly.
Needs to be a new hashtag. Kindness is contagious. I mean, it might exist, but
it probably does. But
new campaign.
Maybe the dominoes thing. I haven't seen that one before.
Domino effect of kindness. Oh, well, thank you so much for joining us today. If you don't mind, could you share your Instagram so people can follow you? I know I follow your work and it's so inspiring, and you share such helpful tips and kind of techniques on how to look after your well-being.
Oh, thank you, Liz. Yes, it's at Dr._Radha. So yeah, I'd love for you to join, have a look, and then share, because I think actually, again, I'm very much about everyone sharing their own strategies to help each other. I learn so much from people that I follow, that I meet, that I talk to. So we're all in it together, we're all learning, and I love that. That's what I really love about it.
Oh, brilliant. Well, thank you so much for joining
Thank you, Liz.
today and taking part in Mental Health Awareness Week at More Yoga. We'd love to stay connected with you, and
100%.
Thank you so much for sharing with us today.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks, everybody.
Oh, thanks, Dr. Radha.